All right, let's try to do a short video on some of the main differences between the 320 9mm series and the Glock 9mm. This is a Gen 3, but it's a Model 17. Um, there's some differences with Gen 4 and especially Gen 5, but as a whole, it's a very similar concept. In the Gen 5, you'll have front serrations, you get rid of the grips there, the finger grooves. But these are more external things. There's a difference on the Gen 4 and 5. They start going to a two-stage guide rod system. But in essence, there's a lot of similarities. The point is, now on the Gen 5, that they did even make the firing pin block larger on the 17, well, on all of them, I believe. Point is, though, but the concept's still the same. So when we show the internals, you're going to see the main difference. Now, there's a lot going on with the 320 right now. There's also a lot of hysteria. And it'd be interesting to see, because there's both. There are some things and legitimate issues going on. My opinion on it, which doesn't matter, because it's only opinion. And on the surface, on the best case, the 320, in my opinion, just has a very short trigger pull, and with obviously no trigger safety, even though there's internal things that are supposed to work and happen, right? Which, in essence, they probably do. But the thing is, if there's an issues with certain parts failing inside, or certain parts being, or multiple parts being out of tolerance, or after shooting many times, or if the gun's dirty and a mixture of everything else, could things fail from within the inside, and then creating like what they call tolerance stacking. Um, the problem is they can't always replicate it. But this, let's just say this, to say that there was no other issues, let's say with Glock. Glock booms happened for a long time, and there was different reasons why. A lot of guys reloading back in the day and shooting lead bullets out of the Glock barrels was a no-no, especially in the higher pressure 40 and 10mm. But I digress. There was issues with that. People losing fingers and hands, or a lot of cops getting shot with their Glocks when they first came out. And they even had issues, I believe, when it first came out by not being drop safe on the Gen 1. I believe that was all corrected. We can go down to the history of the M16 that got many military men killed in Vietnam. But that was issues of where they told them you didn't need to clean it or didn't need lubrication. And the type of powder using in the M16 5.56 ammunition, they used a cheaper type of powder that worked fine in America, but in the jungles of Vietnam, the powder, especially in a M16 that was already used in the chamber, was very hot. The powder, and with humidity and everything, the cases could swell, and now you have a brass case stuck in the chamber, and you have a dead gun, and a lot of guys got killed for various reasons. So what I'm saying is, now we love the M16. All the bugs were worked out, and some of the bugs were not part of the initial design, but then politics got involved, which is a real thing. If we go down to the M9, when I was in the service, there was issues with the Checkmate or aftermarket cheap, shitty magazines. Also issues with the military buying non-Beretta locking blocks, and those would crack a lot. It's supposed to last at least 5,000 rounds. Remember when that came out with the Beretta M9? Since then, I think there's been 4 or 5 renditions where they made stronger and stronger locking block designs, but the military was stuck with they couldn't change the TDP, the technical data package, and so they made improvements on the M9, or and for the civilian version, or the 92 FS, but the military wasn't allowed to use that because they had to stick with the technical data package. And now the modern M9s are modern N92s. If it's a non-military one and they don't have to keep the same specs, those can go easily, they say, 17 to 20,000 rounds, and eventually they replace the locking block, which most people are not going to shoot it. Also, you have the issue of, in a military issue firearm, using lots of NATO ammo, which is, I don't know if it's technically considered plus P, but it's a hotter cartridge. And if you're not replacing guide rod springs or internal parts as things wear, there's a lot of different issues. And when I was in the 2002, 2007, the Berettas we had were really worn, really beat up, but I never saw any issues, though. I digress, though. Um, so let's go into the internals, um, and we'll go from there. These are both obviously striker-fired weapons. The main difference is, well, several. Here we have a trigger. Technically, it's a trigger safety, but it's not a manual safety. It's automatic, meaning if you let go, this trigger's locked until you pull from the center of the trigger. So, but it's passive though. The moment anything from the center of the trigger touches it and pulls it, it will go off. Which this doesn't have that. But either way, you shouldn't be. If you're handling this firearm, you should clear it if you have no intentions of shooting it, and you shouldn't be touching the trigger on either gun until you cleared it, or if you intend to fire it, then okay. But that should this have that, or would that resolve everything? I don't think it would resolve everything because there's so many variable situations. Obviously, there's plenty of times where people say the 320 went off and they lied, which to say all 320s are bad would be false, or that there's some kind of issue that they're all bad. That's not true. It's not been proven. I'm not saying if we get to that point and it's proven, okay. I'm not defending or forcing either way. I mean, you can't get hysterical, jump. And I understand, unfortunately, some of the servers just died from their 320. Now, of course, we'll see when that all the information comes out. Supposedly it went off in the holster, but we'll see what happens. When I was in, there was a Marine that was killed with his Beretta 92 when he was taken out of his holster off his vest, and he shot himself in the heart. Terrible accident, but it wasn't that he shot himself in the heart. They proved that it wasn't the gun. It was an accident. Terrible. The guy had children. It happened at my base in 29 Palms around, I think, 2003. I think terrible. It's sad, but guys, firearms are dangerous. Every time you know what else is dangerous? Cars. Every time you get in a car, around cars, every time you handle alcohol, every time you're having sex, there can be immediate or lifelong damages that can happen, i.e. family court or AIDS. So the point is though, to say that no other guns have ever had any issues would be a lie. And to say that this is the only gun having issues is also a lie too. There was a Suffolk cop when I was living in New York years ago. He was a SWAT officer, and he shot himself in the leg in the police headquarters in Yaphank, in Long Island, Suffolk County, in the parking lot. Supposedly he was, from what I heard, he was playing with his gun and went off. Had it in his holster, had his hand, put it in, taking it out, just dicking around. Because I knew people back then in the department. So whatever, shit happens. Stupid shit happens. I digress. But as far as is it just a completely negligent design, it's always going to go off with no one touching it? That's not true. I've shot this almost 1,000 rounds just through this firearm, and it only went off when I pulled the trigger. And I have carried it. I don't predominantly carry it, but I mean, I haven't had it go off. Now, of course, I'm not recommending anyone to carry a 320 because with everything going on right now, it's the biggest. This is the enemy number one, and this is the bad guy, and give it time. So it's, it could be a good time to buy one really used, really cheap. But, and we'll see SIG is going to have to do something. Meaning, even though they don't have to do anything right now, they're going to have to do something. And also, they're at a point where no matter what they do, I think there's people that just, this is the devil they know. This is like, well, no matter what, this is the bane of their existence, and SIG should be out of business. And it's like, okay, that shouldn't be good either. Should all companies be striving to make even more durable, reliable, and safer guns that still work and enjoyable to shoot? Sure, that should be the goal. Always make things better, or else we don't have muskets. But we're gonna see. We're gonna see. I will say though that between just these two designs, it'd be easier to have an accident with this for several reasons. Even though this is safe to carry, in my opinion, but it still will be easier to have an accident with this. And I would say that wholeheartedly because of the easier, lighter pull, the shorter trigger pull. Now, obviously, it slides back, but for this to go off, it's very little take up, and it's already at the wall. And the striker on this is fully cocked. And we'll get to the firing pin block in a minute. So this is not fully cocked until you start pulling the trigger. So there's added features to this that this has a nicer trigger. But as far as it comes down to accuracy, that could come down to the person, the ammunition, or be very close enough that maybe it doesn't matter. But I enjoy shooting the 320. But can I tell you between the two, can both be carried safely? Yes. Can both be carried unsafely? Sure. You're gonna stuff this in your pants with no holster? That's a bad idea. That's a bad idea. Are you gonna handle either of them with your finger on it without clearing it? That's a bad idea. Are you gonna maybe have it in your holster, or stuff it in your pants in the holster without looking, and it gets caught between your shirt or a fat roll or your your jeans, or make sure whatever the hell, and it goes off? Yeah, because still there's no off switch on this. There's no manual safety. So if you just stuff, I've talked to people that have shot themselves in the foot with a Glock. They had the Glock in their car on a magnet, on those magnets. And when he took it, he just took it out off the magnet. And he said when he took off the magnet, he took it off the magnet, and it's a strong magnet that held the Glock, under the steering wheel. But then he was still close to it when he took it off. And then, so see, his finger was on the trigger, but he didn't pull it. But then the magnet, it was close enough, the magnet kind of pulled it back. And when the magnet pulled the gun back, it's pointing down. When the magnet was close enough to the magnet, he should have took it and broke away and not have his finger on the trigger. But he admitted, he said his finger was on the trigger. When he pulled it off, he kind of kept it there for a split second. The magnet pulled it back up, a strong magnet. His finger was here, and the energy from the magnet pulled the gun back up, and it just went off. And he had a Sig V Crown 115 grain bullet go through his foot, ankle, and a young kid. This is in Colorado, and he's still walking with a limp. So, should I say, well, nobody should have Glocks? No, I mean, accidents do happen, and they will happen. But as far as the system inherently, the bottom line is, SIG is in a spot where they need to overhaul the design and add even more at this point. That's the only thing they could do. And say, you know what, it's safe as it is, but we're going to make it even more safer, right? If they just take it, they have too many contracts for them just to discontinue the gun. They could be in a lot of trouble for that. And then if they admit to it was bad and they didn't recall it, and then now they could go bankrupt from all the lawsuits. So either way, I don't want to say it's going to be interesting as far as, and in a way it is entertaining, all the videos online about people just, clickbait, like, yeah, your 320 is just guaranteed to shoot yourself off, and people making videos and rigging the gun and doing different things, or removing parts, or adding things, or stuffing things in places, and then things going off. And if anything, the 320s made everyone a detective and a gunsmith. So gotta give it that, where everyone's like trying to. I promise you, if you manipulate any design and you start changing parts or breaking it, or doing stuff, you could have an issue with anything. So if you look up and there was another video I saw where the guy looked up all the negligent discharges, whether the person admitted to doing it or not, accidents in America in a year, and how many were 320. There's a lot of accidents, but we're not hearing about any of those other ones. And it's not, what do you say, nobody cares? Or this, you get what I'm saying? So, there's accidents with I can say every design. Where people make a mistake. But it's definitely, if you had a negligent discharge go off and you had a 320, you could definitely, it's a good time to say, yeah, it just went off, because there's a lot of momentum with that. I've never seen such momentum in my life. It's almost like a burning the witch at the stake. And I'll be the first one to say that if that they could prove that absolutely that this is completely negligent, it's going to go off every time, and you just got to recall it, sure, then I would say, yeah, then mail these back to SIG and give me something else. Okay, great. But all I can say is, from my experience, this thing only went off when I pulled the trigger, and I've carried it loaded, and even though it's not my go-to, but there's a lot of smoke right now. But at the same time, there's so many other guns that people look up statistics. People have accidents or get killed with a lot of different guns in America. just in America. Are we not? So we're not carrying or talking about those at all. Um, so I digress. Let's look at the internals now. Here's another main difference. We already talked about how when this is loaded, it's fully cocked or fully energized in a sense, and this is not. With the Glock, the striker, as you pull the trigger, this part here is going to push up on this firing pin block, and this firing pin block. Now, have ever these firing pin blocks failed? Yes. Yes, I know someone personally. He had an older Glock 17. I'm not sure if it was a Gen 2 or 3, and he had it for a long time. And he shot it a lot. And he wasn't the kind of guy that would do maintenance on his gun. He had it for a long, long time. Anyways, he had a firing pin block fail, and he chambered around his bedroom and put a hole through the floor. And he sent it back to Glock, and they gave him a new one. And there was a failure of the firing pin block. These things can break, and or you could have a spring. Things can go wrong. So when you clean a gun, any gun, if you're only just cleaning and wiping down, that's not enough. Especially if you're shooting a lot. But you need to fully. We're gonna fully disassemble these, because there's a lot of dirt and lubrication or chunks, little pieces of grime or pieces of brass. See, because this is closer to the chamber here, and this could get a lot of stuff built up in there, and you need this to be. Do I have? You need this firing pin block it needs to be fully up when nothing with pressure, and it needs to. Son of a bitch! It needs to have good. This is harder one-handed. Good spring tension. See, that's got good spring tension. It pops right back up. So when that's down, that striker will be able to go forward. But see that it pushed it back up. This is in great condition. Eventually, though, after shooting a lot, there's a spring inside here. You might want to replace it. Also, it is possible when you're taking it apart, or if it got really grimy or broke, that spring could, yeah, it can happen. You could put it back wrong. You could have the spring actually bent, and really, you could, stupid things can happen. So when you're taking this apart, even if you're doing cleaning it down, wiping it down, you want to check your first. You push on the striker. Your striker, and if you take the barrel out, we'll show later, that striker's not going nowhere. I'm pushing hard. It's not going nowhere. But if I push this down, see if I do it one-handed. If I push this down, see, it's hard doing it one-handed. Son of a bitch. I can't do one-handed. I can't do one-handed. So anyways, but if I push this down, firing block, then I should be able to move the striker forward. Okay, so I digress. Here we don't have, see, it's so thin. That, I think, one, is a major issue. Two, the location. You see how this firing pin block's up here? It's separate. These are two, separate situations. And I think that distance is a good thing. Having these right next to each other, and also part of the same unit, and there's just a little spring, this is the spring in there is it looks like a coiled spring, but it's small, but it's a solid spring in there. There's a little spring inside here, which I'll show you, that pops that back up. But also, you see here, I'm pushing on the striker hook here, and it's not going. But I don't need to fully, I just need to press it a little bit. So it's not like it has to be all the way down to go forward. Let's see, I'm going to keep pressure on it. How much down? Right there. So it doesn't need to be, see, I still have more room to push down. So maybe about halfway, give or take. So, I mean, so is that working? Yes, but I mean, they could make the tolerance on this, where, because let's say this is in spec, or I clean my guns very well, but let's just say it's very gritty, very dirty. And also, some of these issues weren't happening before the had a recall. In the recall, they added this notch in here. So this here was a disconnect. So if the slide was slightly out of battery, you see that? So this is going to be up in there. But if when the slide gets pulled back slightly, this gets pushed down, and now the trigger won't release the sear. It won't work. That's a good thing, meaning, so because you want, for this to fire, you want the slide to be completely closed, which means the barrel and the chamber is locked up. If the slide's just a little back, the barrel and and the slide won't be fully locked. And if you pull the trigger, it can go off, and the pressure could blow out the bottom. So they added the sear disconnect. It wasn't necessary, but they just added that as an extra feature. That way, unless the slide was fully closed, the trigger does not work. Which in a way is a good thing. It's an added device, added thing, because the issue was the drop issue from a certain height that was higher than the mandatory testing. Now, should they have tested that? I guess you could, or whatever. But that's why it wasn't a recall; it was a voluntary upgrade. And I have a SIG 320/45 that wasn't upgraded. I had no issues with that either. I don't plan on dropping it from 7 feet on the back, but whatever. I can get that upgraded. I digress. But yes, definitely speaking of head to head, this is just this is, you could say, a better design, but it's just, look at the dimension of that metal. What do they do on Gen 5? Gen 5, it's even larger, and it's not even round. It's much more surface area, and it's rectangular, similar to a SIG 226 or a SIG 229. They went with a rectangular. So why doesn't SIG put one of those rectangular firing pin blocks that now Glock uses on a Gen 5? Why do they go with this? You see how thin this is? Look at the diameter is maybe the width, not even of a penny, where this is wider than a quarter. Let's get here's a penny, much wider than a penny. Here, about the same width of a penny. So, yes, this has a fire pin block in essence, where it's a striker, or whatever the fuck they want to call this. And it does work, but my opinion is they could have made this wider, but and with this notch now in the newer ones, perhaps you could have debris or something in here. I don't know. There's something. You didn't hear about a lot of things going off in the holster pre-voluntary upgrade. It seems more recently. So I don't know. I digress. But anytime you're gonna have a weapon that's issued to many police departments and military and a lot of people and civilians, they're just like cars. You could say, well, what's the safest car? What car has the most accidents? Let's say tell you it's a Toyota Corolla or a Honda Civic. Two things you could say. Well, it's not a safe car. There's a lot of accidents. But then you could say, well, how many Corollas are out there? How many drivers? Are all drivers good? Or, so it's like, the more guns that are out there, the more chances of just accidents, negligent discharges. Or maybe, so this is a very popular mainstream gun. And like I said, there has been plenty of situations of Glocks blowing up or people accidentally shooting themselves with it. So the question is with the SIG, it's the issue of not really accidents, because accidents have been proved many times that the person pulled the trigger. But is the other issue more of, it's not even saying it's not even pulled the trigger. Now, if that's the case, and they prove that 100%, that this is going off in maybe the holsters, wrong holsters are in there. And I can see that. If you have a wrong holster and it rubs against this trigger, and with no trigger safety in the middle, and it's fully cocked, and you have this little tiny striker stop here, and the sear is here and has an extra catch in there if it slips to catch it again the second time. Let's look at the frames here and the differences. The Glock, you can see, is much simpler. You can see where the Glock it catches. Here, it's like less surface area on the SIG, that little ridge there. That's where the striker rides on. The bottom line is everything's riding on that little notch. And if it slips, there's an extra one, and hopefully that catches it. We're talking about this here, this hook. The other issue with the SIG is, as you pull the trigger, there is some wobble from this way. As you pull the trigger, the slide will go down and the front will go up. And no one's saying that the SIG 320 is going off when they're shooting, like if it's in their hand, I wasn't pulling, it just went off. All the issues seem to be in a holster. And when it comes in a holster, the slide and frame are in contact. And since this is the only gun I know that as you pull the trigger, the slide and frame has like this cant where it goes up in the front and down the rear, is there a chance that maybe with some holsters and in some situations with maybe some parts out of spec, maybe some guns that are really dirty or worn. Is it a situation where it could go off? I can't say for certain. I don't think nobody can, but we can't say that it's never happened before because things are happening. But then again, in each situation, for example, there was someone that had it went off in their pocketbook, but there was a holster in the pocketbook, but it could have been in the holster or could have fell out of the holster and went off in the pocketbook, got caught on something. But that's only two. Any striker fired gun, I would not carry it off the body. Like, it needs to be in a holster. It needs to be completely sealed. The trigger has to be completely covering this trigger, or the Glock or SIG. But I would never just take this and throw it in a glove compartment, fully loaded, or stuff in your pants. You can't do that. Double action, single action, you could do that. Lethal Weapon, he never used the holster, and he was fine because it's a double action. If you decocked it and the hammer was down, you had like a 10 to 11 pound first pull. And after that, it goes down to about 4 to 5. I digress. So there's nobody. Everyone else, for the most part, is using firearm blocks, traditional like this. I think CZ and I think HK, definitely HK. But they have a big cam pin that it's like no go, but it's a big metal cam pin that as you pull it, it rotates it. But when you let go, it faults to locking it, around here on the striker. So that's a much beefier. Bottom line is, everyone else has a beefier firing pin. What is things we could speculate about the 320 all day, or people could get very excited and get emotional. But let's just think what we know. What we know is, has a great trigger that's very easy to pull, great for shooting. It's very smooth feeling trigger, but it has no safety on the trigger. Nothing stopping it from. And it's a short pull. We also know the striker is fully cocked. We also know it has the smallest striker block. This little piece of metal here, in essence, it works, right? But also, in worst case situation, I think a beefier block, in my opinion. And obviously maybe out of the way, but I don't know how they would design this now to make it this beefier. There's no room here. There's a lot. They're using up a lot of real estate in a little spot. They have this notch here for here. There's a disconnect. They got the block here, the striker block here with the spring inside, and the striker all within this little spot. There's a lot going on with the Glock. Just the striker back here. So I don't know, you do the math. Let's look at the internal parts. So I'm gonna just press this. There you go. So that pressure there, once you push that up, that's the last thing. And then the pressure from the spring releases the striker. So there's that little spring in there behind this piece of metal. And it's very thin, in my opinion, for such an important part. Having it on the striker as the block, it's efficient, I'll give them that, but and probably cut costs. But it's such a thin piece of metal. I think this being a little, if they made this beefier, they can make this twice the width and with much stronger spring. That could prevent a lot of things. The firing pin block on the Glock, look at this big chunk of steel. And that beefy spring. That's blocking. See, this striker, that's blocking that. So this will rest on that ridge in there, and unless that gets pressed up, there's nothing there's no way they can fire. I digress. We have the extractors and the rods with the springs that are going to put pressure on the extractor. I see no issues with these. That's on the 320. No, this is the 320. And then this is the Glock. So that I don't think is really an issue. Here we have the extractors. This is the Glock extractor. It works and it's cheap. They don't feel much different in weight. Both hollowed out. These both could be min parts, and I could be wrong, but they both could be min parts. Yeah. So I digress. So the bottom line, I guess, is if you're not sure, go with the Glock right now. But the Glock is sitting back, and Glock's gonna have a really good quarter, maybe a great year. SIG is hurting, and they're going to get really hurt by this whole situation. In my opinion, this piece here, this needs to be beefed up. Because the best case is going to work, but at worst case with that spring and being right here, and like I said, the slide of the 320, I'll put it back together and I'll show you. It has like play, and as you pull the trigger, it cants. I'm sorry, it cants this way. So there also might be another situation that there's just no way out of this. And there's a possibility that the 320 could be dead within a year. Maybe they don't recall it, but they could just nuke it and just say we're not making no more and never discuss it. And say we have a whole new gun, the brand new SIG 420, the SIG 520. I wouldn't go with the 320 or any 20 moniker. The whole new SIG whatever. I don't know. I don't see a good way out of this for SIG. I don't. They misplayed the whole situation by calling people out and saying it ends today. That was a poor decision. The bottom line is, you see, this is where it catches on there, and that's where that catches on there. That's flat. This is more of a hook. That, to me, I think that's the biggest problem. This little, because every other gun has a firing pin block or something like that, and they're all beefier. This piece is not beefy. That little piece of metal there is so important, and if it's out of spec and or not being gun's not clean, or you get a lot of dirt and debris in here, or if it's just enough that you think it does, this spring here. See, if you get some stuff in there, I don't know. Just me. Maybe make this bigger and have a situation where this is maybe sealed, because by this being open, if you got some shit and dirt and debris in here, and there is some play when this is in the gun, I don't know if I can show it, but this piece here, it can wobble a little bit, and like it has a little bit of play from left to right. And being how thin it is, if that thing slips by just can cant it a little bit, and as it cants, that little spring in there, maybe doesn't have enough pressure, or maybe that spring in a sense could be, I could see that where if this is wobbling left to right, maybe it slips the spring in a sense. You need a larger spring, you need a beefier piece of metal here, wider, bigger, longer, more. It has to be more metal contact, and I would have this more sealed. When this firing pin block is in the Glock, it's like it's hermetically sealed. Like when this is in there, it's very hard to get. Even though stuff, debris, carbon could get in there, but when that's in there, I showed that before. It's like it's in there. It covers. I don't know. Damn it, SIG. So it is what it is. Let me put this back together. Okay, real quick. I don't know if I covered this. I already said it before with the wobble. So here is the striker and the block there, the lever there. You see how that wobbles? I'm not even putting a lot of pressure on this. Let me try to see that. There's a lot of play on this. Left to right. Not pushing down. Down is how it deactivates. But when it's activated, there's still play left to right. There's enough play, see? And if I could see if dirt and grime get in there, and this, what if this is bent enough when this is locked and it slips, or see? I don't like that. Anything locking this shouldn't have that kind of play. And maybe you get a gun that has maybe a little more room, and I don't know. And even the striker here has, see that? Everything here has some certain tolerances, but it has play. You can really see now. I don't like that, like a wiggly tooth. Now you can say that's acceptable. Maybe it is, but let's go with the Glock. Ready? Almost no play. Of course, you can pull it back because when it gets fully cocked, it's gonna pull it back. But what I'm saying is, when this is in there, the strikers, they really can't make a wiggle. Now see the firing pin block here? That's it. It's sealed. It's in there. And unless all you can do is press it down. Here, obviously, you can press it down because when you pull the trigger, it should be able to press down because the safety deactivates, and then you should be able to fire. Okay. Then see the striker goes forward. Okay. The striker can't go forward because no fire. But there's wiggle here, left, right. Wiggle, 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 wiggle here. No wiggle. You wait. I can't even get into the Glock. I can't wiggle that firing pin block. It's perfectly sealed in there. There's no wiggle left to right, back to forth. That's sealed. But once again, you might want to replace that spring every so often, and also make sure that's clean though, because this is very important. The point is this though: if I was SIG, I'd make this piece beefier, make a stronger spring, and there's no wiggle. And this is a 2022. This is post everything, where everything should be no issue. And I never had an issue, but all I could say is you add in the combination. If you're not keeping it cleaned, if you're not taking the striker out and cleaning out everything, and or maybe improper holster, I'm not, so many variables. I don't know. But the point is, even on its best case, I don't like, what would you like better? This kind of wivel with this thin, the contact area this thin, the width of this or the width of that. And like I said, the Gen 5 is even bigger. Or you go to a SIG 226, the internal locking block of that is massive. I digress. Let's show the wiggle. The slide wiggle. Obviously this weapon's clear. I'm gonna use my thumb because of the angle of one hand, so you can see though. I'm gonna pull this Glock trigger, and you're not gonna see any slide movement, no wiggling. Great. Okay, let's just pull the trigger a little bit here. See if you can see the wiggle. Yeah. There you go. Oh. Let's see that. Oh, shit. You hear that? I don't know if you hear it. If I just hear the wobble, see, that's just me. Let's look at the back. You see that? You see the line, the line between above my thumb, between the space between the slide and the frame. Watch the space. See that? Let me see if I can get the space to disappear. See? As you're making contact with that trigger. You see it? I don't know if you can see it. Ah, shit. See that? Better angle, you can see it. Ah, shit. Ah, shit. It is a really easy trigger. So watch. I just want to pull it just enough. See it? There you go. It's bouncing up and down like a 1990s like Buick or a box Chevy, like in a rap video, like homie wanna ride with me, ride with me. When they got the shocks in the car and no other gun. Oh damn it! I'm trying to show what's this. I'm trying to pull the trigger just a little, and then that 320's got a really easy trigger. There you go, just a little. There you go. Okay. Just a little. There you go. See, bounce, bounce. Now, what's the big deal with that? Not when I'm shooting, but maybe when it's holstered. You see, it pulls down the front, down in the back, and goes up in the front. Ah, damn it. And I don't know if I put pressure, like, on the front, it's even easier to pull the trigger. You see, that's the question. Son of a bitch. I don't know. I don't have an answer for you. I never had an issue with it. It works. It worked totally fine in the range, and I have carried it. However, though, which one would I feel more comfortable carrying? The Glock, absolutely. That larger firing pin block. The gun being fully cocked, that doesn't bother me. The HK was fully cocked at the VP9. A 1911 is fully cocked, but you have a grip safety, and if it's a Series 80, you have a firing pin block, and you have a actual frame safety. But this doesn't have a grip safety. Not this one. Well, it doesn't have a frame safety. 1911 have a grip safety. Okay, digress. And it doesn't have a trigger safety. And it doesn't have a traditional firing pin block. It has something, and it should work, but it's so thin, and I showed you how thin it was. And not only is it thin, it's wobbly. And not only is it thin and wobbly, from internally, you see when I took it out, the spring is exposed within it, and it's like if anything gets in there the way it's designed, and by putting everything, it's very busy back here. There's a lot going on right back here. They put all their eggs in one basket. I digress. At best case, maybe I would say pause from 320. Worst case, if you want to go spherical, if you have them, you're going to get $100 from at a gun store, and that's it. Or you just put them back in your gun safe, and I get that. Or you can say, hey man, I carry one, whatever, sure. I mean, there's not a recall, so I mean, legally you could say it is safe to carry, because I mean, they're still selling it, right? I mean, now, in between right now, I don't know what to tell you guys. But I'm carrying the Glocks. I'd like the 320. I like the way it shoots. I like the way it handles. I don't care about the modularity. That doesn't. I don't need that. They need to make. They need to make some beefier internals, in my opinion. That's what I would do if I was them. I don't know what they're going to do. I really don't know. And all I can say is we're going to find out. Something's going to happen. Either they're going to pull the gun, or they're going to make a more advanced model with even beefier parts. Or they're going to say, you're all wrong. I don't know. I don't know. But I don't know. But we'll find out. I hope you learned something. Look at the internals. So yeah, head to head, I like the way the 320 shoots better, but is it worth all that? Not for carry. Maybe for if you want competition and you have like a higher end model, a Legion or whatever fucking X models they got with even better triggers. For competition, I can see that. But for concealed carry and stuff it in your pants, right now I'd probably go with Glock. And until they make a model maybe with maybe a trigger safety, maybe a little longer trigger pull, maybe a little heavier trigger pull, a beefier firing pin block. I don't know. I'll see you guys around. Stay fresh.